feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your world. The right leader. That's impact the right way. Many voices, many faces, all great. This, many voices. That's impact the right way. Many voices, many faces. This, many voices.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Many Voices of Grit. With me, your host, Vernon Wright. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at The Right Leader. Hashtag That's Impact the Right Way. As well, be sure to follow the hashtag The Many Voices of Grit. And as well, if you have not looked at previous episodes of the Many Voices of Grit, be sure to go to DisruptED TV's YouTube channel, as you see on the screen, and look at those episodes. Literally a plethora. Did I just say plethora? Yes, I did. Literally a plethora of information for you to sharpen not only your own skills, but the skills of those that are on your teams, in your school buildings, and in your districts. And all at a cost that is free to you. So with that being said, as we say often on this show, with this show and the other episodes as well, remember to share the episode, pay it forward, and make a difference in the life of someone that you know and you care about today. So you might be wondering, you say, Vernon, you come up with these crazy titles and we don't know what it is until you get into the show and you tell us what it's about. And you're up to your this nonsense again that you do so often, this craziness. Wondering, you say, Vernon, I see looking at the screen, there is a title and the title says 8K Grit. Have you been up to this craziness like you have been before, Vernon, with these crazy titles? What in the world does 8K Grit mean? Well, I am so glad you're wondering about that. You're going to find out what 8K Grit means, its significance, and specifically how it relates to our guest on the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, here on the show, we reach far and wide, literally, to bring to you some of the best guests in the educational PLN world. And today is no exception. It is my privilege, my honor, and my pleasure to bring to you Jeremy Williams. Now, some of you know Jeremy Williams. He is, as you have heard me use this phrase with other people on the show before, a heavy hitter, a unique brand and blend of experience, has his own show on DisruptED entitled Dismissed, and really has some unique perspectives. I'm just going to tell you right now, folks, this is one you're going to want to watch over and over again. Mark my words, you're going to see. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you the fabulous, the awesome, from 8,000 miles away, hence 8K Grit, Jeremy Williams. Jeremy, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me here, Vernon. It's a real pleasure. I am currently a principal of a school in Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. Previous to that, I served as a teacher, vice principal, and superintendent, both in majority of my time in Northwest Indiana, in the Gary, Indiana region, and then also spent 2 years in Indianapolis. So most of my experience has been in America. For the past 3 years, I've been serving an American school in Abu Dhabi in the UAE.
Very good. So ladies and gentlemen, you can see that when we say worldwide, truly Jeremy is doing just that. Like I told you guys before, and it's no secret, You see that the title here for this episode is 8K Grit because he is 8,000 miles away from where I am in Texas. And truly, it is an honor and pleasure for him to be on the show. So I just want you to know that Jeremy, when he speaks to us on this episode, one of the things that is so neat and unique about Jeremy and what he brings to us today in his sharing of ideas is this. He has worked stateside and now is working abroad. He has experienced leadership in two realms. And so as we go through this, I will tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see what are the commonalities, what are the differences, and then what are the big takeaways that whether we're here in the United States, I'm in Texas, or whether we would be 8,000 miles away where Jeremy is in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. What are the things that we can take away and use for our leadership? So with that being said, those of you that follow the show, you know how the format works. Shall we jump into the first question, Jeremy?
I say let's go for it.
All right, very good. I'm excited about this. Am I supposed to say that as a show host? I think I just did. I'm excited about it. So, Jeremy, let me go ahead and ask you, my friend. The first question really is this. Have there been some experiences in your life, and really talk to us a little bit about them, where you went through some challenges, you had to deal with some things, and they were grit, but you really didn't recognize or realize that they were grit until later on in your moments of introspection and your moments of reflection? If you had any of those, and if you have in your life, talk to us a little bit about those.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of two, one personally and one professionally. Professionally, I got into leadership really young. I was maybe 27 when I was a vice principal for the first time. And that was just kind of the trajectory that I was put on because I was good at teaching. So if I was good at teaching, I should leave the classroom, right? And I became a vice principal. And I think I was doing the best I could at the time, but the further I get from the experiences that I've had as a leader, the more I recognize how bad I was when I started and how much I undervalued experience. I think I looked at experience as, oh, yeah. You've done it this way for a really long time, but like, I'm here with these new ideas and watch me go. And I fell on my face a lot. And I often feel very, I don't know if it would be, if it's regret, or I just wish that I could go back and serve the students then the way I know how to serve the students now. And I think about that all the time. So it wasn't grit in the moment, but as I looked back, I definitely realized that for me, I wasn't very good and I had a lot of learning to do. And I think that I've become much more humbled by the art and science of leadership as time has gone on. Personally, I was a Division I football recruit. I was named to the Street and Smith All-American team my sophomore year of high school. And so I was going to go to, a Division I school, and I was going to play big time football. And, the expectation train kind of took off. And all of a sudden I had Ohio State Jim Tressel showing up at my school. I had all these football coaches showing up at my school to recruit me. And the thing that happened was I played really badly both my junior and senior year, and I ended up getting 0 offers. And it was a confusing time because I was getting a lot of messages from coaches that these offers were going to come and blah, 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 blah. And the reality was that I just wasn't good enough to play at the D1 level. And that was not something that 18-year-old me understood. I had all these excuses and reasons why, but again, kind of this thing that comes up with me is I tend to look back often. And when I look back at that, it was the first time in my life that someone just said, hey, you are not good enough. And you have to, fight or flight, right? You have two responses you can take. You can choose to roll over and just say, oh, well, I'm never going to be good at anything, or you can pick yourself up and try something else. And so those are the two stories that kind of jump to mind right off the bat.
So as you're going through this and you're thinking to yourself, I went through these leadership positions, I operated in these leadership positions. You recognize that, really with all candor and authenticity, when you did your own self-assessment, that really you did not give those students maybe the fullest benefit of maybe what your potential was at that point in time. Talk to us a little bit about, as you have shared those reflections, how you would take that and really shift that today to someone that would come up to you and would ask you, Jeremy, I've been really doing some introspection and I've been looking at maybe some areas where I've not really served others at the level that would have best represented my potential. How would you help them go ahead and make what for you was a paradigm shift from maybe what was lacking to now what is at a much higher level? How would you lead them through that? What advice would you give them so that they could go ahead and operate at a level that really was an expression of their best selves?
That's a great question. I mean, the human being has infinite potential. Every human being has infinite potential. So I think once you accept the fact that you will always be striving to hit your potential because your potential is limitless, then you just get in this continuous improvement cycle of knowing that you will screw up, you will make mistakes. So much of leadership is how do you respond to people when you make a mistake and screw up? Are you owning it? Are you accepting responsibility? Another area of my leadership that I really struggled in when I moved into my first superintendency was I didn't want to own the decisions that were made, even if I agreed with them, because they were high stress situations. So many times I would just try to find language that would be neutral, or this is what's happening in our organization, so we need to all roll with it type of language, instead of saying, as a leader in my core, I believe this is the right thing to do for children. And I think that you just have to recognize that your potential as a human being is limitless. You will always be able to improve and get better. So don't be scared to screw up. But if you're going, it's the old football coach adage, if you're going to screw up going 100 miles an hour, go full speed and screw up. Make mistakes that you believe in your core, that share your core values as a human being. Don't make mistakes trying to be someone else or please someone else. But if you believe that what you're doing at its core is serving the children and you make a mistake with it, so be it. You can sleep with that. But if you're trying to be someone else's person or trying to be someone else's leader or try to make everyone happy, which, to be honest, I think is pretty much impossible to do if you're doing this job right, curriculum and instruction side of things. But part of the job as a principal is to protect your students and to protect them academically, protect them emotionally, protect them socially, to serve the parents of these kids, to serve your staff also. And all of that can't get lost from how engaged your students are, or what the state says about your school. You have to remember that this job is complex and there's a lot to it.
Definitely, indeed. And you've spoken to several different themes. One of the themes that I want to go ahead and affirm you on is the theme of being aware of your stakeholders, being aware of those that are in the process, those you serve, both internally in terms of staff and students, and then externally being the families and the communities that you serve that are a part of the tapestry overall of this thing that we call education, right? And really your commitment to putting kids first, and not just saying it, but really living that out in your leadership with what was within scope for you, what was within your influence and your power and your authority. And really that leads me into, which is just a great and beautiful segue into the last question. And for those of you that watch this episode or have watched, for those of you that have watched previous episodes, you know that arguably this is my favorite question out of the three. And it is the question that I call letters from the future. So with all of that you have shared with us, that has really been great today, Jeremy, and we're very appreciative of you for that. With about 2 to 3 minutes left, what advice, wisdom, and guidance would you give to yourself if you could jump in a time machine and go back and give a letter with that advice, wisdom, and guidance in it to your younger self, what would you say? What would be your wisdom?
So do we have about like 45 minutes for me to do this? Because I feel like this could take a
I
really long
wish
time.
that we did. Unfortunately, we have time constraints, but let me say this, folks, to you that are viewers, if the response is good to this video, and we have a lot of folks watch this one, and we have a lot of interest in bringing Jeremy back to go ahead and take another amount of time, then that's something that might be in the future, Jeremy. But again, based viewers on what your response is. If you like what Jeremy's saying, let's go ahead and let's support it. With that being said, what is it that we can do in terms of the wisdom and the guidance? What would you say to your younger self?
Know thyself. I would say know thyself. I would say know what you believe in, know what you stand for, know what you believe is key to driving student achievement and learning in your school, and know that before you lead. And I think I was in such a hurry to become a leader because that's what everyone told me to do, that I didn't spend enough time identifying who I was, not just as a leader, but as a man, as a human being. I feel like I know myself so much better now than I did before. I know my weaknesses and my strengths. I know what I care about. I know what I don't care about. And I feel like for me, that's been the biggest thing that has helped me grow. And if I could go back in time, I would just say, who are you? Who are you? What do you stand for? And I think that's kind of the thing that I was missing most. And I would probably also say, hey, Jeremy, there's a lot of experience around you. Learn from it, because whether you think they're good or bad, you can learn from it either way. I've worked under, I've had some experiences with really bad leadership, and I've had some really powerful experiences with good leadership, but you can learn from all of it. So, I would just say know thyself if I had to have one thing that I would take away from this.
Excellent information, ladies and gentlemen. And information from someone who has operated in so many different roles throughout, for many, what is already a very full educational career. And Jeremy Williams, ladies and gentlemen, is still at it, making an impact in the way that he does with his students every single day as a school leader. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. 8K Grit. The story of grit, perseverance, and leadership all rolled up into one from 8,000 miles away, courtesy of Jeremy Williams. Jeremy, we thank you for being on the show today. We were honored, pleasured, and privileged to have you on the show today. It was our absolute honor, and we thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, as we say often on the show, share the episode, pay it forward, make a difference in the life of someone you know. This video might be for them the game changer. Until next time, as we say also here on the show, remember, feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. That's impact the right way. See you next time.
Feed your brain, feed your soul, and absolutely grow your role. The right leader. That's impact the right way. Many voices, many faces, all this